Hello and welcome back. So in this point here, I would actually be showing you how we can use the if error function when there is actually an error in a scenario where the VLOOKUP had been used. So this is our video number 3 when it comes to the KVN Excel series. So I would actually ask you to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that we can build this community. And you might also want to consider following me on my X account, so you will be having the daily tips and hacks here on Excel and analytics. So kindly do follow so that you can actually build a large community. Now, before we actually start with the first scenario, because you can actually check that in this point I will be using the approximate match and I will also be using the exact match on the other end. So before we actually dive into this, I would actually request you to first see the very first video of the VLOOKUP series, which was actually the approximate match. I will attach the link in the description below. Then you also check on the exact match. We actually saw that's in the previous video. So I'll actually attach the two links in the description below so that you can actually consider checking on them before you actually come to this point here for the video. So we'll actually start with this case here for the approximate match. So for the approximate match, you can actually check that the cells which you would actually want to obtain the tax rates for are actually not exactly the cells which we actually have in the column 1 of our table array. So we will be using the ranges to approximate the tax rate. For example, this 175,000 is actually in between 0 to 200,000. Why 200,000? Because the next one actually starts from 200,001. So that actually means this is 0 to 200,000 and the approximated tax rate will be 3%. So that actually means that we will be using in this point the approximate match. So because we will be using the approximate match, I would actually want us to go quickly because this is what we have actually done. So lookup value is actually on G21. That's actually the value or the cells which we would actually want to obtain the tax rate for. So comma, the table array, this is my table array. So my table array contains 2 columns, this one here and the next one for the tax rate, comma. Then it will also ask you for the column index number. So in this table array here, sales is actually column 1 and tax rate is actually column 2. So I would actually want the tax rate, which is actually in column 2. Yes, we would actually want to obtain the tax rate, and tax rate is actually in column number 2 of the table array, just like that. Now, because this is actually an approximate match, yes, so we are supposed to double click on the approximate match because 175,000, you cannot actually check, you cannot actually see that 175,000 in this point here. So we have to approximate it by using the approximate match. So true like that, close the VLOOKUP function, hit enter on the keyboard, it's actually getting you 3. Now, what if you had actually had false, which is actually for the exact match? False is also equivalent to 0. So false or a 0 for the exact match. True or false. So false or a 0 for the exact match. True or 1 for the approximate match. So exact match is actually equivalent to false or 0 like that. Hit enter on the keyboard. Now you can actually check that it's not available. So NA, because you cannot run the exact match when you have 175,000, and you can actually check clearly that in the cells I do not have 175,000. So there's no 175,000. So we have to approximate it by using the ranges, and that would have been the approximate match. Now, in a case like this where we have the error, this is where the if error comes in. So you introduce the if error before the main function itself. So if error, just like that, then you open. After every function in Excel, you have the opening bracket, just like that. So do not actually touch on the function. Then finally, after the closing bracket on the VLOOKUP, have a comma, then if error, yes, what should be output? So if there's an error, have the output as not found, like that, close the quotation, then you close the if error function. So if error, this is the function that we already had for the VLOOKUP. So if error, opening bracket, then after the closing Then after the closing bracket on the VLOOKUP, then there's a comma. Then if error, then have the output as not found. We are having not found inside the quotations because it's actually a text. Remember, a text will always be inside a quotation, but if it's actually a number, it won't be inside a quotation, just like that. So we expect that instead of not available error, we would actually have the error to be not found. Check. So it's actually not found. And I actually told you that we are having this not found inside the quotations because it's actually a text. So a scenario where we would actually want the output to be a number. Let's say, for example, instead of not found, I would actually want us to have 1. So 1, just like that. So you can actually check that the 1 is not inside a quotation. It's actually standing on its own because it's a number. Just like that. Enter on the keyboard. That's it. So you can actually check that it's working. So allow me to actually stick with the first one, not found. Just like that, if error function, it enter on the keyboard, that's not found. So you can actually check that 649,000 is also not available in this point here. So if we still run the same thing, it will say not found, then not found again for 848,750. So that's it. Now, before we actually check on this second scenario here, I would actually take you to this point. And in this case, I would actually want you to get me some tasks so that we continue building this. So it's almost done. My site is almost done, but I would be glad if you get me some tasks I do for you monthly. This is a monthly retainer. So Cloud in Excel prompting, dashboards and charts, automation, pivot tables and models, Power BI, financial forecast, templates management, all this for $550 per month. So this is actually renewable. This one will actually be, so you will actually be charged this monthly, and I will actually be doing all this work for you. Yes, including the templates management, everything at $550 per month. So every month, $550. You can as well get me for the templates only. For the templates only, that's I design for you a template and I manage for you. It will be $50 per month. So $50 every month for the design and management of that template. So I'll design in a given month, then manage every month at $50. So you can also ask me to design for you the different templates. You have the ultimate business dashboard, financial budget trackers, inventory management systems, AI-powered report templates, payroll trackers for the HR, sales performance trackers. All those I can actually do them for you. Now, I have some courses on this point here. Yes, so this website is actually too big. That's why it's actually taking some time on my own side here. But they will actually be done. Everything is actually done. So I'm just polishing out, doing some 1, 2, 1, 2, and it will actually be done. So in this point here, you can actually check that I have several courses here. That's for Excel. A lot of them. They are actually 20 and they are so deep. Yes. So deep, but in this point here, I will actually get you access to my Google Drive at just $100. Yes, just $100. I'll actually get you access to my Google Drive, and that access will actually continue even if I have that access will actually be lifetime, because when the site is actually done, I'll actually add you to my website and that access will be lifetime, just like that. So just imagine it's actually $100. Wow, that's just the biggest offer that you can actually get. So for all these courses, you are just getting the access for $100. Just imagine. Now, remember the whole bundle is actually supposed to be going at $945. Now just imagine $100. Wow, isn't that a bargain? That's a very big bargain on your end. So kindly do so. And if you would like to reach me out for the purchase of the courses or for the projects, for the templates management, my email. So chat with me there so that you can actually make a progress. Now, let's actually focus on this second scenario here. So this is a point where we would actually want to obtain for the exact grade. So in this point here, we are actually using the VLOOKUP, but we will be using the exact match. So let's actually move. So VLOOKUP like that. Then you actually open. this is actually my lookup value. This is actually the score which I would like to obtain the grade for, comma, it will ask you for the table array. This is my table array. So score is actually in column 1 of my table array and grade is actually in column 2 of my table array, like that, comma, it will ask you the column index number. So grade is actually in column number 2 of my table array. Score is actually in column number 1 of my table array and grade is actually in column number 2 of my table array, comma, it will ask you, are you obtaining the approximate match or the exact match? In my case, I'm actually obtaining the exact match. So double click on it like that. You close and hit enter on the keyboard. It's actually getting me a D. So that one is actually a D. So we also expect 51 to be a B. And we also expect 75 to be A+. So allow me to actually double click on this point here. So a B and an A+. Now, what if we actually add the score to be 32 because we do not have the 32 there in column 1 of the table array? What could have been the result? Not available. What if we had 52? Not available. 76? Not available. This is where the IFERROR function actually comes in. So you introduce the IFERROR function just before the main function, which is actually the VLOOKUP function, and just have the opening bracket like that. Then after the closing function on the VLOOKUP function, then after the closing bracket on the VLOOKUP function, have a comma, then opening quotation, not found. Just like that, closing quotation, then you close the IFERROR function. So this bracket here actually belongs to the opening. So this bracket here is actually the closing function for the IFERROR function. So remember, we actually opened the IFERROR function before the VLOOKUP function. Hit enter on the keyboard. Now you can actually check not found, just like that. Now you can also replace this not found with a number. Let's say, for example, 1, just like that. And I actually told you before that when it comes to the text, we will be having the opening and the closing quotation. But when it comes to the number, we do not close the numbers. So you just write 1, just like that. Hit enter on the keyboard. Then that's it. And double click again so that it can be applied downwards. And that's all. So I would actually want us to check in the next video how we can also do some advanced applications on the VLOOKUP function. Thanks for watching and subscribe.